Today's edition of the Three Martini Lunch is brought to you by 4Patriots. Head to 4patriots.com/martini, where you will discover that the deluxe 3-month survival food kits are back in stock. They were sold out for more than a year because of the high demand. And not only are they back with even better recipes than before. You know, the United Nations is warning of an unprecedented global hunger crisis. It's predicted that by 2030, 800 million people might be struggling to feed their families. Will that happen? We don't know. But like with everything else with 4Patriots, you want to be prepared. And don't forget about the deals that are about to disappear on the Patriot Pure line. You can get good deals still on the UV phone sanitizer, the UV wand, the sanitation solution machine, and the disinfecting power bank. You can stash food away and be confident that when a disaster strikes, you and your family will be ready. Go to 4patriots.com/martini to get the deluxe 3-month survival food kit and the peace of mind you deserve. Plus, get free shipping on orders over $97. That's the number 4patriots.com/martini. That's 4patriots.com/martini.
Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Corombos of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
So glad you're with us on this Good Friday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Jim Garrity is away. He will be back on Monday. Here once again in his place. Very happy to have Jon Gabriel. He is the Undisputed King of Stuff. He is the longtime editor-in-chief at Ricochet.com, and he's a columnist with Discourse Magazine and the Arizona Republic. And we have good and officially two crazies, but plenty of bad you could probably sprinkle into those crazies as well. But let's start with the good, and that's Glenn Youngkin. Glenn Youngkin tried really, really hard to keep a Republican majority in the state House last year and to get one in the state Senate. He narrowly failed on both counts, very narrow Democratic majorities in both, which means now for the rest of his term, Glenn Youngkin is what Jim Garrity likes to call a hockey goalie. His job is to stop bad stuff from getting past him. And so he is on a veto binge now at the end of the legislative session. It's not as good as I had wished. He actually signed legislation that codifies same-sex marriage in Virginia, but he has killed a push in the minimum wage, which we just talked about yesterday, and the destructive impact it's having in California. He also vetoed, I think, about 30 different gun control bills that came out of the state legislature. And now he's vetoing marijuana dispensaries, the expansion of the pot business in the Old Dominion. And he had extensive comments on this, but here's his basic summation for why he vetoed this.
Today, I have vetoed the bill to create a commercial retail market for cannabis. Cannabis is bad for Virginia. And in all the other states that have had an extensive retail market, what you see is, first, it's terrible for children and adolescents' health and safety. Massive increases in child poisonings, massive increases in adolescent usage. And of course, when you combine that with the fact that the potency of cannabis today is dangerous, it drives mental health challenges and mental health sickness to the point of psychosis. There's also been a systematic increase in these states in violent crime.
And I'm just sick of the wretched smell everywhere you go with this stuff. So I don't know if he was channeling the counselor from South Park there in the beginning when he said cannabis is bad. You know, the old drugs are bad. Okay. But he's right. I feel like the Democrats got on this train with legalizing pot to get the youth vote. And then the Republicans decided to do it too, even though if that's really your main thing, you're either going to be a lefty or a libertarian anyway. So I'm not sure why Republicans thought it was a good idea. So good for Youngkin trying to tap the brakes on this. And at least for 2 years, Virginia won't get a contact high.
Yeah, congrats, Virginia. I live in Arizona, and we have dispensaries. Not as bad as like Denver or something like that, but still they're all over. And that's what we notice as well. Just the reeking smell of the stuff. I've often upset libertarian friends by being very strict against legalization of marijuana, and they're like, oh, you know, Mises said, and all these great thinkers said we need to do. I'm like, look, I don't like it on aesthetic grounds. I hate the smell. It's a gateway drug to like playing hacky sack and wearing tie-dye and going to fish concerts. It's just the whole shtick about it is just always, it's just depressing. to me. So aesthetically, I don't know. Drink a martini or 3, let's say, and you're cool. And you're sitting there with a bong? Come on. Grow up. I don't know. Just the whole thing is so deeply unappealing to me on every level. So congrats, Virginia. The last thing this country needs is new methods of getting people to avoid reality, to sit on their rear ends. And you can tell me that cannabis is it's totally non-addictive. But all of us know that kid in high school who was the stoner. He was selling small bags of the stuff in the back of the gym. I went in the Navy, then went to college, did this, did that, hang out in the old neighborhood, and he's still the same dude. So that's the last thing we need in this country with all the problems we have is more people high on whatever substance you choose. So congrats to Glenn Youngkin. Politically, too, veto is very, very important. I was actually reading a Chesterton quote last night, and he had said, conservatism, it's not like you could just leave things alone and they will continue on. Instead, you need to constantly be analyzing every new idea that comes down the pike. 1 or 2 will be good, the vast majority will be terrible, and you need to stop the terrible ones. So please keep that veto pen going, Governor, and good job. And thanks to this non-Virginian who, whenever I visit your lovely state, the Old Dominion, I won't need to get stunk out of, the local park or something like that.
I just noticed it in the parking garage at our office the other day. That was not pleasant. And he's right about the crime because, people want to buy it. And if they can't get jobs, they're going to resort to other ways to get money to buy drugs. That's been the story of people addicted to drugs for a long time. And we talked about the minimum wage yesterday. We talked about young people kind of sitting on their butts. Part of it is that jobs aren't available because the mandatory minimum wages are too high. And part of it is because they can't get off the couch because they're under the influence.
Yeah, exactly. More states should do this. And anybody, living in the West, I've visited Colorado many times, and visiting that state before legalization and after legalization is a very different and less pleasant experience. That is absolutely for sure.
Get high on GK Chesterton, not on the weed. That's what you need to do. All right. Speaking of plants, much better than cannabis, by the way. Fast Growing Trees, the biggest online nursery in the United States with more than 10,000 different kinds of plants and more than 2 million happy customers right here in the United States. You, too, can grow lemon, avocado, olive, or fig trees inside your home, on top of the wide variety of houseplants they have available. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online, and your plants are shipped directly to your door in just 1 to 2 days. And along with their 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee, they offer free plant consultation forever. As I mentioned, we just got the deck kit of fantastic different spices, oregano, basil, there's dill, I think there's parsley in there too. Mrs. Corumbus has already incorporated the oregano, which as a Greek person, I highly, highly endorse. She did a great job with it. Right now, Fast Growing Trees has the best deals online, up to half off select plants, and listeners to this show can get an additional 15% off their first purchase when using the code Martini at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code Martini at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code Martini. The offer is valid for a limited time, and tell them that we sent you. All right, John, on to Crazy Martini number 1 now. And as we have documented on this podcast before, crime is up. Violent crime is up in major cities where I'm near, Washington, D.C., certainly one of them, New York City, Chicago. I don't know what it's like in Phoenix where you are, but I'm guessing it's not necessarily better than it had been. And the Women's Caucus in New York City is upset with the number of attacks against women in the Big Apple, sending out this tweet. We are deeply disturbed and concerned about widespread reports of attacks against women in New York City that have been confirmed by the NYPD. We're calling on the NYPD for an immediate and comprehensive investigation into these incidents with transparent updates to the public. But then it's retweeted by Council Member Amanda Farias. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And her simple retweet is, where are the men calling this out? Well, back in May of last year, Council Member Amanda Farias stood up and spoke out against a man for speaking out. This is the Daniel Penny incident where a guy named Jordan Neely seemed to be high, in reference back to our last Martini, and making various and consistent threats against people on the subway. So Neely, an ex-Marine, put him in a hold that neutralized him. And sadly, Neely later died. And her tweet at the time was, "I continue to be heartbroken and outraged by the death of Jordan Neely and the lack of justice. The Black Caucus of New York City stands together to demand justice for Jordan and to pay attention to the systems that failed him so we do not lose any more Black New Yorkers to senseless violence." And so if I may go back to your more recent tweet, Councilmember Farias, where are all the men? In jail or awaiting trial, because for those who do the right thing, justice system is stacked against them instead of the criminals who you guys let out on a rotating basis up there. So, John, what do you make of this chutzpah?
I want to say unbelievable, but it's all too believable these days. And I like the little gender shaming shade that she threw in there as well. Men, why don't you protect these damsels in distress? Well, that's kind of interesting. We want this return to chivalry while bashing men like anybody who would try to stop a crime on a New York City subway. They would be arrested, jailed, called colonizers, abusive, whatever negative adjective you have in your quiver there. Basically just made a national shame for this person intervening and trying to protect his fellow man. So yeah, that's where the men are. The men of New York City have been taught to mind their own business, to keep their head down. When someone is being menacing and threatening on the subway, they just stare all that more intently at their phone and they don't get involved, because they know if they do get involved, not only will they put themselves at risk at getting harmed by the individual, but if they succeed in stopping the dangerous individual, they will be punished by the state. So this is what you asked for. Enjoy the heck out of it. I really hope that mayors of other cities, whatever party you belong to, if you can't provide safety for your citizens, you will be tossed out on your ear. You got to get this right. This is basic stuff.
No, that's exactly right. And it's interesting. The patriarchy, like you said, is always the bad guy. Toxic masculinity, of course, is the problem, the root cause of just about everything. But whenever there's a problem, who's the first people they run to? It's masculinity. Masculinity is what's going to stop these creeps on the subway or wherever they are in the city. Masculinity is going to rebuild the bridge in Maryland.
Right.
When stuff needs to get done, not that there aren't tough, capable women of doing stuff too, but this idea to make men more effeminate or more softer. This country was built by strong men acting responsibly, not abusive, but keeping their head down and going forward and working hard. And so apparently that's not okay anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And there needs to be return in, I'm hardly Mr., I'm not going to be appearing in a Roadhouse remake anytime soon. However, when people step out of line, like thinking back to my dad's generation, when a dude steps out of line in just even matters of politeness, let alone something like violence, the other guys kind of gather around him and argue that he probably would not be successful if he tried that again. So there needs to be some of that. I'm very, very pro-chivalry, but you can't have the people who have been attacking chivalry nonstop. I just, this is unrelated, but I remember getting chewed out by a woman when I was leaving Dulles Airport on a transport. I stood up for her because all the other guys were just sitting down, and she was a bit older than me, but I immediately jumped up, offered her my seat, and then she chewed me out because I was insulting her. So that seat just remained empty, and I'm like, well, I'm not in Arizona anymore, that's for sure. So, men act like men. Legislators, stop shaming the people around you that you would rather have on your side protecting you.
So basically, no good deed goes unpunished, whether you're giving up your seat at the airport or trying to stick up for somebody on the subway in New York City. So be careful of the culture you build, New York City. Letting the criminals out and creating all sorts of trouble for the people who actually do the right thing. Absolutely ridiculous. All right, let's talk about something much better than that, and that's Factor meals. 2 for 2 now on Factor meals. I told you about the cavatappi and broccoli yesterday. Yesterday's lunch was the chicken with the delicious cream sauce, as well as tomatoes and broccoli. Again, I'm not sure what they're doing with the broccoli, but they're doing a great job. And the chicken, also very, very tasty, especially with that sauce. So Factor Meals right now. Go to factormeals.com/3ML50 and use the code 3ML50 to get 50% off. It's about very convenient meals, just 2 minutes, literally in the microwave to have ready to eat. They're a good sized portion, usually about 600 to 700 calories. They are dietitian approved, so you know you're getting good things to eat, and they're actually cheaper than takeout. So a lot of positives here. Sign up online at factormeals.com/3ML50 and use code 3ML50 to get 50% off. What are you waiting for? Get started today and get after your goals. Save 50% with the code 3ML50 at factormeals.com/3ML50. That's factormeals.com/3ML50.
The Federal Reserve is lying to you. The Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski. Every day, Chris helps unpack the connection between politics and the economy and how it affects your wallet. As Jay Powell continues to tease about lowering interest rates, he needs to raise them. All they're doing is monetizing our debt while inflation remains hot. Why? Government spending way more than it takes in. Whether it's happening in D.C. or down on Wall Street, it's affecting you financially. Be informed. Check out the Watchdog on Wall Street podcast with Chris Markowski on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, John, on to our crazy martini now. And this was not intentionally lined up to run on Good Friday, but I suppose in some ways it's appropriate. Last couple of days, there's been quite a bit of discussion about Donald Trump teaming up with Lee Greenwood, the famous country singer, and of course his anthem, God Bless the USA. It's been around for, probably about 40 years now. Well, Lee Greenwood has put out the God Bless the USA Bible, and Trump now officially endorsing it. He gave a 3-minute video testimony for it, and here's the open.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend Lee Greenwood, who doesn't love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father documents, yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this God Bless the USA Bible. And it's just very important and very important to me. I want to have a lot of people have it.
So there you go, John. And obviously, people should be reading the Bible. I think America would be much better off if people read the Bible and trusted in the Lord and followed his prescription for our lives. I think we'd have many, many fewer problems. But this kind of feels like a grift, especially from a guy who claims he's not sure if he's sinned. He's never really needed to ask for forgiveness. There's the whole 2 Corinthians comment. So I guess I wish he would seriously read it and contemplate it before doing this, because it feels like a more of a money-making operation, especially the line, and it's not in the video, but it is on the site. The FAQ, frequently asked questions on the site. Is this the only Bible endorsed by Donald Trump? Yes, this is the only Bible endorsed by Donald Trump. I don't need my politicians giving their stamp of approval on the Bible. The Bible stands on itself. And if you want to stand up for specific values, stand up for the gospel itself, absolutely, I welcome that, especially if it comes from an authentic place. This one just feels off.
Yeah, the whole thing seemed odd. And when, before reading the entire story, when I watched the video a couple days ago online, I was expecting him to say, this is the New International Trump Translation. And, thinking about which books he excluded because Jonah's a big loser. And, who knows where this would go, and pay an extra $20 and you get 3 and 4 Corinthians tossed in. The whole thing, look, we know Trump, and I don't know, think pre-politics days, The Apprentice, he became a cultural icon because he's that sales guy. He's the New York real estate, hey, have I got a deal for you kind of guy. That was often very funny because that was just his personality. So just take it out of the political context. When you're going, online to sell Bibles, you get kind of this old negative Bible salesman vibe. If you've seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? You had Big Dan Teague, John Goodman's character, kind of a flim-flam man who would shake widows down to give him money for one of his not very good Bibles. Paper Moon was a movie in the 70s, kind of had a similar theme. It seems kind of odd, and yeah, good for him. I hopefully he was able to read a few pages of the only Trump-endorsed Bible. But yeah, get out there and read your Bible. Don't worry so much about selling them and moving units.
Just had a very infomercially, almost televangelist type feel to it, which I don't know that people see Trump as a credible spokesman in that particular issue. And my fear is that they'll see the two so closely intertwined that they'll see the Bible as a political prop.
Right.
And that would definitely be bad. But the big takeaway is here, you should definitely read your Bible. It does not need to be the Trump-approved Bible because it's been approved by God, which is far more important. And on this Good Friday, we should point out that far better than any good martini, we celebrate the good news this weekend. For you, Jon, as an Orthodox Christian, will be a few weeks from now. But there's another fella named John that summed up this weekend appropriately. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So, Jon, to you in a few weeks, but I guess a little prematurely, Christos Anasti.
Christos Anasti.
Happy Easter to you, and of course, thank you for your time.
Yeah, everybody have a fantastic Easter. We're having ours on Cinco de Mayo, so I get to break my Lenten fast with, I don't know, margaritas and enchiladas or something like that. But everybody enjoy your weekend, and thanks for having me on the past few weeks.
Absolutely. Jon Gabriel is the undisputed king of stuff. He's also the longtime editor-in-chief at Ricochet.com, columnist for Discourse Magazine and the Arizona Republic. I'm Greg Corombos. Jim Garrity will be back on Monday. Please subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch. If you don't already, tell your friends to do it as well. Thanks for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep them coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us all on X. Jon is at EXJON. Jim is at Jim Garrity. And I am at Dateline_DC. Have a blessed Easter, everyone, and join us again on Monday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.